If you'd like to hear the full episode or any of the scenario archives, be sure to subscribe and click the link in our bio. Also, like and follow the Scenario Radio Show on all of our social media platforms for more real talk with the playlist. Peace.
All right, so we are back with Wanna Be Starting Something. That's what we're doing today, talking about Black-owned startups. On with us right now, we have two of our guests. We have Mia, who I did not know was referred to as the Workshop Whisperer. I like that. I like that name.
I got questions.
Yeah, Mia O'Guinn McNeal is on with us. And also we have Ebony Jenkins, who is a business owner from BWL Brokerage, LLC. Okay, so what we were hoping to do with the show today, because we had our opening segment, we were talking and just explaining to the listeners that, there are a lot of challenges to being a Black-owned startup. Starting a business is challenging no matter who you are, for the most part. Couple that with, some of the challenges that come with being a Black-owned startup. And we want to kind of talk about that today. One, not only to shed light on it, but also to hopefully focus the listener toward the idea of, okay, where are the resources? How do you find resources? How much of this stuff is common? Is this just something that I'm going through starting my business? Is it something that's regular? And if so, how do I deal? So not that we think we would have all the answers, but we want to at least be able to have the conversation. So that's why we wanted to get you guys on with us today. So one of the first things that came to mind for me once I started doing research on the whole thing, because I'll be honest, I'm not like super adept at all of this, was that funding seems to be a big deal. In fact, what? Let's go, KB. Let's go with the question of the week. If you can go to our question of the week, KB, and let the people know a little bit about that. We're going to read some of the responses. I want you two to hear this, and then we'll talk about that and see what your experiences have been.
All right. So the Scenario Radio Show question of the week is, what's the most challenging part of being a Black-owned startup? What is the most challenging part of being a Black-owned startup? So over on our Facebook page, we had plenty of responses, and I'm going to read a few, see if those ring a bell with you guys, or if you have any comments to kind of jump in there. So Lamar says, the first comment says, and this is what I agree with as well, your family and friends not being customers. Okay.
I find that interesting, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I find that interesting because I don't necessarily think that's valid, but I'll talk about why in a moment. Go ahead.
Well, there's a follow-up comment under it that says, true, but strangers are out there that have been placed to support you. So I thought that was a good follow-up response.
Yeah.
There's another comment that says strangers support you quicker than some friends and family. So it's not even just the who's supporting you, but how fast they support you.
Okay.
Daitra says creating a healthy work-life balance. That line is almost non-existent when your business is your life. I see you guys nodding your heads. Either one of y'all want to jump in there? Miss Mia, what do you think?
Yeah, can I speak to the first thing first?
Yeah,
please do.
About family and friends. One of the things that I always say to my clients is with family and friends, you typically have folks that fall into two buckets. They're either the dream killers or the yes men. So the dream killer is the person that's saying, man, that will never work. Don't even try it. Nobody wants that. It's not good. They're going to kill the dream. You better keep your real job. Your yes man will say, oh, it's awesome. It's perfect. You absolutely need to do this. This is the best thing you could ever do. Both of them are wrong, right? It has to be a balance somewhere in there because it has a lot to do with what your actual product or your service is, right? The interesting thing about family and friends supporting you, I'm a consultant. I'm a business coach. I do a lot of facilitations of entrepreneurship workshops and things like that. But because people know I know a lot about entrepreneurship and business startups, what I found was that a lot of my family and friends who had businesses would call me from time to time and say, hey, can I just pick your brain? Can I pick your brain? Can I pick your brain?
Oh,
right. And so I started saying, you can pick my brain as soon as your invoice is paid. That's when you can pick my brain. I stopped those conversations. The other thing is the hookup mentality, where people feel like since you're their relative, you should, give them something at a discount or for free. Both of my kids are entrepreneurs. Well, I have 3 kids, 2 of which are entrepreneurs. I have never gotten a discount I have never asked for anything for free. I pay full price for their stuff because I wanted them to be able to look somebody dead in the face and say, I don't even give my mama a discount. And because I don't believe in doing that. And so I think that, yes, for a lot of people, family and friends will not be the people who support you most. But you have to define what support is. You know, if you're a mom, for example, and you're trying to start a business, you really want to be able to have that support system where somebody is going to help you while you're hustling, whether it's watching out for your kids or doing something like that. And every product and service is not for everybody. And sometimes they just flat out don't take you seriously. And so you do have to find your customers where they are, you know, and make sure that you have a strong definition of who exactly your customer is.
Here's the thing that I always found interesting when I hear people talk about that is that I wouldn't think that your family and friends would be a good foundation for a customer base in the first place. Not that they shouldn't. I mean, it's great if they support you, but I know how many family and friends I have, and if I'm counting on them to sustain my business, that's not enough. That would never be enough, not realistically for a successful business. So I think to me, it always seems like people put too much emphasis on the idea of family and friends supporting your business. It's like there are millions of people out there, and if you're only worrying about your cousins,
there's 20.
Yeah.
That's
But also, support may not be a financial thing. Like I sell lipstick as well. Some of my family don't wear lipstick. You know, in the freight business, I'm probably the only person in my family that's in that business. So they may not be able, they can't move my loads, or they don't have products for me to ship, but they also can provide moral support, encouragement, you know, small projects like creating Excel spreadsheets, checking on my drivers. So you can utilize your family in a different way when it comes to support, not just buying your product, you know, or buying your services.
I agree.
But where do you get that support if you're not getting it from do you have to cultivate those relationships with new people and new friends? Is that what the value of networking is?
Networking.
Just trying to networking. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
I mean, for me personally, I'm from a small town, so I don't expect a whole lot of support from that town. My family, my biggest supporter, my co-owner, Dexter Briggs, big supporter. But for me, what I did is I went out and joined Facebook groups, you know, just anything dealing with logistics, freight, small business groups, a thing called Alignable, just things like that so that I can network with people who may have a similar story, you know, and just kind of put my name out there, put myself out there, ask for resources. So I'm going to say networking, starting with Facebook, social media, you know, your local, you know, events like networking events. So.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get Mia's pick, her song pick. She picked All This Love from DeBarge, one of my favorites from DeBarge. Tell us why you decided to go with that song, Mia.
Oh my God, that song takes me back to my first little boyfriend back in the day and going to the skating rink. And when I hear that song, I always think back to a much simpler time in my life. And not for nothing, Elder Barge can still sing that song just like he did 30-some years ago. So he was my first love, my first boo. When I grow up, I'm gonna marry this man, and so that's my favorite. Absolutely, why not?
Real talk, his voice sounds just as good as it ever. And I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean this to sound the way it sounds, but I'm just gonna say, I don't know what kind of drugs he was doing because they didn't affect him at all. Him and Charlie Wilson had some of the good stuff because
Charlie Wilson for sure.
Their voices sound great. It's like I don't know if it was like heroin chewables or what it was, but it didn't affect their voices at all. But okay, we're gonna go with all this love from DeBarge. When we come back, we're gonna talk with Ebony for a minute about her business, so she can tell us about what she's been dealing with as she's been getting the wheels in motion on her business. Yeah. So stay tuned to Scenario Radio Show. Here's Elder Barge and family with All This Love.
This is the Scenario Radio Show. Real talk on the playlist.
That's the